The UN Security Council is meeting to discuss the plight of persecuted Christians in the Middle East. France's foreign minister called the meeting because he said, quote, "It is completely unacceptable what is happening to these minorities." France is the presiding member of the council at this time. Laurent Fabius called the March 27th meeting because he said, "We are on the side of these communities." The French government has already made provision for Middle East Christians seeking asylum in their country. And Fabius earlier this year visited several displaced Christian communities. The brutality of Islamic State fighters is not limited to murder and destruction. It also expands into the horrific world of sex slavery. This next report comes from our friends at Voice of the Martyrs Canada. Greg Musselman brings us a story of a Christian mother who suffered a devastating loss.
Ida Hannah also wants to live in safety with her family. But as you'll soon hear, that is not her first priority right now. Ida's story is heartbreaking and demonstrates the evil and coldness of ISIS. She tells of the events leading up to her ongoing nightmare.
On the 6th of August, ISIS attacked Karakush. I heard the explosions. Many people, including children and young people, died in the attack.
For the next 10 days, Ida and her husband Badu, who is blind, and their 3-year-old daughter Christina stayed in their home, not knowing what would happen next, living in fear. Thankfully, her other 3 children, including her 11-year-old son Christmas, had escaped to safety. Suddenly, ISIS broke their silence.
From the loudspeakers, we heard Allah Akbar, and the ISIS people announced all the Christians needed to leave the area, and if we didn't, they said they were going to kill us. They also said you can stay if you accept Islam. Do that or leave.
The militant Muslim group then rounded up all the Christians and brought them to a health center and briefly separated the men from the women.
They opened our luggage and took things like gold and money and left our luggage on the ground and made us go to the bus. After that, me, my husband and daughter all went to the bus. We didn't take anything. I just held my daughter. Suddenly, one of the ISIS people just took her. He took my daughter from me. I started crying and my husband asked me what had happened. I said, "They have taken our daughter." I followed him off the bus into a building.
Ida says Christina was then given to an older man with a long beard. She believes he was the leader of the ISIS group in that area and described him as having evil eyes. She pleaded with him to give her young daughter back, but he ordered her to get back on the bus. He told her to shut up and that if she said another word or came near her daughter, he would call his men to slaughter her right there.
I was begging him, and my daughter was crying and screaming because she needed her mother. But he looked at me with his dark eyes and said, "Go now," and I started to cry. I felt like they were going to kill me if I stayed even one more minute.
Ida returned to the bus distraught. Her husband was unable to chase after his wife and daughter because of his blindness. The Christians were then taken to the desert and dropped off with nothing. From there, they had to walk 7 hours to get to Erbil, where they were finally given food, water, and shelter in tents. Later, they would move to this unfinished shopping mall.
When we arrived here, my oldest son, who was 23 years old, asked me, "Where is my sister?" And I told him that she was taken, that she is gone. He became like crazy and started to cry and said they can't do that.
Although Ida reported to the local authorities in Erbil that her daughter was abducted by ISIS, she was told there was little they could do. 3 times she tried to go back to her village, but each time was prevented by the guards at the checkpoint from doing so, fearing ISIS would kill her.
I'm only asking God for my daughter to be returned to me. I need my daughter to come to me, to be back on my knee, and that she is healthy. That is all I need. I'll never lose hope that I will see her again. I just don't know when. I believe God can do it. I have dreams about her every single day.
VOM partner Ray Thorne read an emotional letter from a mother in the U.S. to Ida.
Words cannot express my grief
كلمات ما تقدر تعبر عن مشاعرك
over the loss of your little girl.
لأنك خسرت بنتك.
I read your story
أنا قرأت القصة مالتي.
and I sat and wept while I was at work.
وأنا يعني بدي أصلي لك وبدي أبكي على موت بنتك.
She said, I wept for you and your family.
إحنا بكينا عليك وعلى العائلة كلها.
She said, I have a 3-year-old daughter of my own.
أنا عندي بنت عمرها 3 سنين.
The thought of losing her is crushing.
إنه أفقدها فشي خيالي موزي.
The Lord is near to the brokenhearted
الله قريب من أحياء القلب الضعيفين.
and saves the crushed in spirit.
It's such a heartbreaking story. We encourage all our viewers to pray for this desperate mom and her daughter.